Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce Ross here. My pleasure to be working with Mike Kramer and Chris Shearer. And together, the three of us are going to be continuing the process of introducing you to the Free Yourself framework. The whole objective of the Facebook group is to give you the skills, understandings, tools, principles to enable you to free yourself from your business. And we've created a particular framework, the Free Yourself framework, and over the last, I think, 8 weeks, we've actually been introducing the different dimensions to that. Chris, if you can go to the next slide. So we've gone through a number of steps and stages. And this is our Free Yourself framework. What you want is a vehicle, a rocket, your business that's going to take you to achieve your highest level of freedom. And therefore, the key elements that fuel the rocket, you need a platform. These are the crucial 7 elements. Right at the core of that is the mindset, how you think about it. How do you think about anything and everything is everything. In our world, business is made up of mindset. A good 80% of successful business is mindset, but you need crucial other elements. These are the elements. And then the other key aspect of this is there needs to be an integration between all of those elements. You can monitor and you can harmonize exactly what's going on, your people, your systems, your processes, results. So that'll help create that business that you want. So we've been taking you through these different elements over the last 8 weeks. So Chris, if you can go to the next slide. We've gone through these different steps and stages. And last week was around employees or workforce. And today we're going to be orientating around operations. One of the crucial elements is systems. Fundamentally, the systems inside your organization. And we're very fortunate to have Mike Kramer. Mike is the systems guru. Mike, what do you understand by operations?
Well, operations are comprised of the individual work activities or processes that you perform in order to serve your customers. And our maturity model has a very specific staging for measuring improvement in your operational systems. But keep in mind that when you say systems, you're really thinking about all of the systems. So every process that you have in your organization, if it's going to be running efficiently, requires some form of automation, some form of system. And so those systems could be computer programs, right? Checklists, bot sheets, questionnaires, but some auditable trail that you can go back to and understand what happened in the past. So if there's a mistake, you can go and correct it. So once you have the system, then the system has to be consistently applied by all. So that for that, you need standards. So every system has to be matched up with a standard operating procedure or written instructions of how to use the system consistently. And then you have to make sure that it's being used. But then the linchpin for a really mature organization is that every system is being continuously improved. So that if something goes wrong and you're auditing and you find out, oh, we have a mistake here, something's wrong with our system, then you have a process of its own in place to fix it once and forever so that you're not fixing the same problem, experiencing the same customer complaint, experiencing the same waste or inconsistency, but instead you are able to resolve it in a way that issue, that problem, that waste, that time-consuming headache never happens again. But here's the thing, you gotta really understand what your individual work activities are that comprise your operations in order to make this work. So you're gonna have a lot of different systems. And just one more little point, you could think of it this way. In most organizations, you kind of break up your organization into functional areas like accounting and sales and operations and HR and IT, depending on how complex. Each of those departments is comprised of these individual work activities. They are responsible for managing the systemization and standardization and continuous improvement of the work activities managed by their department, right? So you're going to have to break it down really to the grassroots employee level to create really great operations.
Great. Now, as you, our Facebook colleagues may have seen there's an invitation for a question to come through. We do have one, and we're going to orientate our answer around operations. But just before we go into the question, we're going to be applying the same, how do we ensure a customized, insightful answer occurs in the mind of the questioner. We're not going to be deliberately, directly, linearly answering specifically the question. We're going to be surrounding his question with a number of considerations, if you like, an oblique answer, because Brandon, who sent the question in, is going to be listening in. We would ask Brandon that you sit and you have a reflective approach to listening rather than looking for just the right answer, is that you sit and you take in everything we talk about, because we're going to surround your question with considerations, with speculations, with wondering, with imagining. And then from that, what will happen is quite naturally inside your brain, exactly the right answer will form up. And then from there, you'll feel energized. It's what we call the free yourself now process, because the key thing is not that you get an answer. The key thing is that whatever answer you have, you're motivated to act on. And you have a sense of freedom and motivation. That's what this process is about. And that's why we call it the free yourself process. So that's our approach to answering the question. It is surrounding it to stimulate the insight. Insight generates motivation. And we're looking to role model to you what it is we suggest you do with your team. That is, get them to think rather than simply you supply the answers. Okay, so over to you, Chris. What's the question?
Right. So the question Brandon has basically is around how to structure his organization in a way that the people that are either currently in the organization or joining are clear on their roles and responsibilities, and applying that with the right strategic direction towards the mission and vision, right? So he's looking for clear responsibilities for the team, and in his situation, it's a creative company, right? And Brandon, I apologize, I'm probably not going to do a great job of describing what it is your company does, but basically you're enabling creative people to ultimately deliver whatever it is that they want to create, right? So it's a combination of a product and a service-based organization, and a lot of creative minds. And the challenge is for Brandon is bringing people in so that they're clear on how they're moving towards that ultimate goal, but also having some level of accountability in reaching it. Does that help, Bruce?
Sure. Okay. So that's the area, guys. So what we're now going to do is to have a conversation between ourselves, spark off from each other, and what occurs, what's suggested. I wonder if he's considered. So,
well, traditionally, a lot of organizations and consultants suggest, when you have a situation like Brandon's describing, that you write up your job descriptions. Ever hear that? You've got to have a job description. And when they're talking about job description, they're typically referring to a basket of work activities that one individual will perform, right? So when you go out to the market to hire somebody, you bring out the job description and you show it to them and you say, we're looking for somebody who's going to do this and this and this and this and this and sometimes this. And do you have the skills and desire to do it? And then you strike a deal and you hire them. And sooner or later, they don't want to do it anymore, or you ask them, could you help out over here? Oh, that's not my job. Look at my job description. So it kind of, from my opinion, it sows the seed of a kind of a dysfunctional organization. A better approach really is to identify what all the specific work activities are that an organization might want, and create an individualized learning plan or job description for for somebody and letting them know that you can continuously learn and improve and do more and more and more in the organization. And that way, people have very clear understanding of what they're going to do today and then a path for tomorrow and next year and then in the future. What do you guys think of that approach?
Well, my sense, because Brandon is in a creative environment, my sense is that that would probably resonate with him as opposed to structure. And yet one of the analogies that I think of in terms of a business and a young business, and my understanding is it's a reasonably young business, is that employees are a bit like children. And their job is to be guided by parents and have boundaries. And so there would be a level of sophistication needed because you're looking at they're not toddlers, they're more adolescents. And then so long as there's clarity, how do you get them to express who they are but guided and have a real clarity around the vision, but at the same time make sure that what they're doing is actually contributing and playing nice inside the family. So it's an interesting one, but I can see that it would fit inside the creative environment. Or are you suggesting that this is more what is needed across the broader spectrum of business, not just in the creative environment?
Oh, I think that it's very applicable everywhere because really operations need people to manage them. So any work activity, any process in an organization is going to require people to a certain extent. So even if it's just the audit and oversight functions, right? So for me, and if I'm an employee, I want to work in an environment that is creative and has opportunity for me, and they want to hear my opinions, and there's a place for me to grow. If I'm stuck in a job description, which a basket of finite set of work activities, then I'm going to feel like, hey, I don't have an opportunity here to try out something new and grow as a professional or an individual. So I might start looking for another job one day. But if you can break down the job descriptions into actually work activity descriptions and just assign work activities, do resource planning and understand what the needs of the organization are, it makes it much easier really for managers to identify, well, we have a bottleneck over here. Fred, would you like to go try to learn this new work activity? It's different, and it seems like you're aligned with its skills. And if Fred says yes, well, now Fred can grow into learning a new skill or exploring a new side of his professional personality. So I think it's opens up opportunity for people now.
This is I think it's genius, and I'm scratching my head a little bit too. So I'm gonna pick your brain a little bit, Mike, and I feel like Bruce and I have some similar questions. Mike, you often use the term network of teams. I'm wondering if you can carry through that analogy a little bit. I actually just came from an event at a credit union. There were a bunch of small business owners, and there were so many questions about exactly this. How do I, in Michigan especially, right? It's really hard to find tradespeople, technical people. If you do find them, they're really expensive. Once you find them, some bigger company will come and buy them away, and you don't have that capability. And so I'm wondering, right, how this approach that you're talking about might mitigate or soften that risk or the blows of something like that, where you have people who are cross-trained, who want to learn other people's jobs. They don't hold on to the things that they've always done. It's not, Betty, who's always done accounting in the books, and John, who always did estimating. But how do you, to Bruce's point, how do you set up that network of teams so that the result happens and there's a transparency to it from the, like we say, the conductor's view, to make sure that they're getting the result, right? And it's focused on the thing that needs to happen. That seems to be the magic, question, right? Like, how do you control that?
What's beautiful about it, Chris, is if you do it right, everybody becomes a leader of their own work. So basically you're teaching people how to be leaders, and you're identifying people who want to be a really productive, valuable contributors to your organization. So it kind of unlocks the innovation potential of your organization at the same time. But this network of teams concept, what it does is it simply assigns people to work activities, to work together, specific work activities, so that they can make sure they each individually become equally responsible for helping make sure that that work activity is systematic, it's standardized with well-documented step-by-step procedures, and then they work together to continuously improve it. So if you think about it, if you look at our freedom framework, by creating a network of teams and engaging and empowering people this way, you're incorporating all these elements all at once, but at a very microscopic level at your organization, because you're doing it for each individual work activity. So it's a network of process teams. Everybody's a leader. They're managing the continuous improvement, so strategy is involved. They're focused on customer because you inevitably start thinking about how do I drive more value to people, because you're measuring everything. Mm-hmm. Workforce, well, you're a network of teams. You're literally learning how to be a great team working together. And then everything is results focused. So every work activity becomes easily measured. So if there is a weakness that's been identified either by your team or from your supervisors, and you say, okay, today our productivity is at 4%, let's try and reach 17%. Well, now you've got a measurable goal and you measure towards it. So do you see how people start learning how to be a great contributor to the organization based on the work that they perform?
No, absolutely. And as you were saying, so we were talking earlier, kind of thinking about what analogy to use for this, for operations, right? For where we are right now, and kind of starting to pull this together. And teams, as you were talking through this, I'm thinking football, basketball, mm-hmm. soccer, right? Like they're very focused on not just that next play, but the field goal or the touchdown or the next basket or the next goal, but also the championship, right? And they don't necessarily care about any one person's numbers. It's about the overall performance towards that end goal. And you can see how fluid that is, literally on a moment by moment basis, as the ball's going from place to place and getting points, where this is the same thing. It's a play, an inning, a game, a season, but it all flows together. And I can kind of visualize that happening in this team environment. It seems to really make sense.
Well, you added the last piece of maturity. So the first level of maturity is you've got a systematic process. The second level is that it's well documented, so it's standardized. The third level is that it's continuously improved. And the most mature is that all of the processes work together in an integrated fashion, like a finely tuned machine. And so now you've got an amazing organization, because what is the value of each of these individual work activities? Taken together, they're what you do. They're the way you perform. So the better you make each of these individual work activities, the healthier, the more successful the whole organization can become.
Bruce, do we need to do a rugby analogy here or something to bring it
down
under? Sorry, to Australasia.
We're international.
Right?
That reference,
a fluid sport. That's how they became the best.
That's right. The reference here for you, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, I'm from New Zealand, and of course, New Zealand. If you were to Google the world's best professional team ever in the history of professional rugby, professional teams, it would be the New Zealand All Blacks. But that's a whole other story. Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. The journey of the All Blacks getting so good. Number one, they're technically very strong, and they were the fittest on the field until they got beaten in a semi-final for a World Cup, and that absolutely smashed them. They had no idea why they lost. They had to do some deep internal analysis, and what they recognized was their mindset wasn't right. And ever since then, they've had a mind, what they call a mental coach, a mind coach, to ensure that the mindset has an equal part. So it's technical, but also you play what's in front of you. There's a whole number of phrases around it. You walk towards intensity and so forth. So this introduces inside you've got these network of teams is wonder what the mindset would need to be for people to feel comfortable inside a more fluid environment. But also it suggests what sort of leadership is needed to ensure that there is a direction and there is support, but at the same time there are boundaries.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sorry, Bruce. I didn't actually read the question from Brandon, but that element was pervasive throughout his question. The concern about what's this going to mean, right? Like, how do we be creative and fluid and contributing, but also with the direction, right? And how do you make sure that team is all working together? And you and I both had this reaction on the call, right now, wondering how is this going to work, right? Because Mike is showing a best way of doing this, and the mind kind of typically goes to, that seems really challenging. But when you think of ways that it can work in these various examples we've given, you imagine something amazing, right? Like magic. I mean, I know Mike says this all the time. I think you said that's when the magic happens, right? When everything starts to coalesce, and it's like, wow, how did we get all this result in this fluid, maybe not controlled, but managed process?
Because you're empowering people to manage themselves. I mean, what Bruce said is so perfect, because what you end up doing by making people leaders of the work that they perform and making them responsible for making their work systematic and standardized and improved is you're unlocking their innovative potential, their full value. And anybody who really cares about the organization is going to celebrate this opportunity, right? And those that aren't that interested, you have to ask yourself the question, are they really that interested in being a part of the success of this organization? So they're really taking ownership. And you've both worked with people, you've seen the amazing transformation in employees who before they had no voice, they were not heard, their great ideas were not even given consideration. And then once we create an environment where they have an equal voice and an equal opportunity to make a difference, the lights shine in their eyes again, and you unlock this unbelievable innovation cycle in an organization. It's just so exciting. So that's what this mindset piece means to me, where you're changing people's perspective from, just making it through the day to changing the world,
And that's interesting. So I want to kind of draw that into a little bit of how we the three of us are trying to change how we're interacting with you, the members of this group, and really anybody that comes in and listens to these these sessions. We've gotten some good feedback and some interaction, some questions from people in the group about how this can help them. And I think we need to extend the analogy to you, right? Because we're not giving you answers. We're hoping that this approach will light that spark in you so that you'll want to find the right way to make this happen. And there is a proven, measurable framework and methodology that you can use to apply in your situation. We can't possibly pretend to understand any situation until we talk to you, right? And we're obviously not doing that right now, but we would encourage you to reach out and ask us questions. Think back through the prior sessions of what challenges are you having. Ask us how we can help unfold all those layers and enable you to start getting these answers directly and applying these things in your business. Don't you think, guys? I mean, that's what we're here for.
Better yet, sign up for a breakthrough session and have 2 or 3 of us on a call, and let's make this work for your organization. Let's figure out how to unlock the value for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there are a number of options. Either it could be, we have put together the webinar, which goes through what we consider to be the most important, crucial 6 mindset shifts, mindset considerations to free yourself from your business. But equally, we need to be able to customize that to your particular situation, which is getting on the call with 2 or 3 of us, as we can direct you to have the insights around where to next. What's the next breakthrough for you? Mm-hmm. So I see, I know you've got a hard stop very shortly there, Mike. I know we haven't, at one level, we haven't directly and specifically answered the question for Brandon, but I think we've surrounded him with a number of considerations. And it might even be good for Brandon to think through with his team, or talk through with his team, okay, this is where we're heading. How can we create these teams? So we're leaving it over to Brandon to take the next step. So next week, we will continue the same process again. Looking forward to catching up again. Recommendation, either get on the phone with us, set up a breakthrough call, or go onto the webinar, the 6 Shifts webinar. And anything else from you guys?
Yeah, I would just say, recognize as you think through this that there is no one answer to any of this. This is a complicated, related, connected process that you're going through, right? And integrating all of this together is the challenge, and the best way to start answering those questions is to open it up and expose it, right? And be transparent and start finding out what needs attention and how you're going to structure and align your team towards that end goal.
Thank you both so much.
Yeah. Fantastic. Good talking again, guys, and look forward to doing another Facebook Live to the group next week.
And everybody, take this URL and watch our 6 shifts. You'll really like it.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.